Gene Cernan, an American astronaut, once said that curiosity is the essence of human existence. He meant that our curiosity is what drives us to explore the extent and capabilities of the world that we live in. Indeed, it brought the human race into another level of beings. But as they say, curiosity killed the cat. As we are busy building innovations and progressive technology, we sometimes forget the limitations of our planet, and it negatively impacts our lives. Because of this, we are now surrounded by polluted air. People are dying every day due to different respiratory illnesses. You may not realize it, but we are grasping for a dose of fresh air just to stay alive and healthy. To fight or to flight, that is the question. How much does human activity impact the air and how does it backfire on us? Let's together learn and explore this alarming issue with our atmosphere. This is Fight or Flight, a grasp of fresh air.
What is oxygen cycle? The oxygen cycle is the transport of oxygen through different areas, namely the atmosphere, biosphere, and lithosphere. It is essential in maintaining oxygen levels throughout the atmosphere. All living creatures breathe oxygen, and at the same time, we release carbon dioxide in the air in exchange. At the same time, plants collect carbon dioxide and they transform it into oxygen that is released into the air. But why do plants release oxygen? Plants make their own food by collecting carbon dioxide in the air and water from the soil. In their leaves, it has chlorophyll, which uses sunlight as a source of energy to break down carbon dioxide and water into food, producing oxygen during the process. This is known as photosynthesis.
An invasive species is an organism that causes economic and ecological harm to a particular place where it is not native. It preys on natural resources that both animals and humans use. Not only that, they are also capable of causing extinctions of native organisms, reducing biodiversity, competing with native organisms for limited resources, and altering natural habitats. To give you an analogy, imagine a bully transferring to your school. Yes, that's an invasive species. However, it is important to remember that not all non-native species are invasive. After all, not all transferees to our school are bullies, right? To be an invasive species, you need to be two things. 1. An invasive species must adapt to the new area easily and reproduce quickly. 2. It must harm the habitat of the native organisms.
Invasive species can promote carbon sequestration or the capturing and storing of carbon dioxide, a greenhouse gas, in soils and plant tissues. The bad news is, invasive species can also increase emissions of nitrous oxide, a more powerful climate warming gas. Invasive species sometimes possess characteristics that can accelerate nitrogen cycling in ecosystems, meaning they add extra nitrogen to the system than would otherwise be there and cause nitrogen to be more easily released in the atmosphere. For example, some invasive species such as Morellifera have the ability to convert nitrogen, atmospheric nitrogen, into the inorganic end compounds ammonium and nitrate, which then become available in soil for plants and microbes to use. Thus, the effects vary among ecosystems, species, and local climatic conditions.
Over the years, human beings have continued developing and modernizing the world we live in with technology and new infrastructure. However, there is no doubt that this also affects the air we breathe, leading to air pollution. The most common cause of such problems is burning fossil fuels, as large amounts of carbon dioxide are released into the air, trapping heat in our atmosphere and causing global warming. Additionally, manufacturing industries and mining operations emit toxic chemicals, thereby destroying air quality. With this, air pollution becomes alarming. It causes several respiratory and heart problems like asthma, stroke, and cancer. Moreover, there is an increased temperature worldwide, which causes an increase in sea levels and melting of ice. If the problem worsens, habitat loss is possible and the preservation of lives will be endangered.
Let's talk about epigenetics. The term epigenetics refers to the study that shows the changes in a human phenotype caused by the activation and deactivation of genes that do not correlate to the changes in the DNA sequence. So, how does bad quality of air affect our genes? When epigenetic alteration occurs, some cells will be locked in a vulnerable state and repeatedly attempt to renew and repair themselves. Air exposure can easily affect the DNA methylation, and these changes might in turn influence inflammation, disease development, and exacerbation risk. Are there alarming cases of epigenetics? For starters, a child is more likely to be a primary target of acute and chronic diseases compared to an adult. Short exposure to low-level air pollution can significantly affect growth development, leaving children at risk of developing long-term conditions such as cancer, cardiovascular, and respiratory diseases.
Humans portray a significant role in protecting the environment, specifically the air we breathe. This role can only be effective if we act responsibly. According to the World Health Organization, air pollution kills an estimation of 7 million people worldwide every year. To prevent this from continuing, we can start by ourselves by doing some small acts that could create huge impact. Such actions are conserving energy, taking public transportation, growing plants, using chemical-free products, and more. A campaign on reducing air pollution can also be helpful by informing the people about our current situation and influencing them to do this task. Last but not the least, every nation must have great leaders. These leaders should take swift and sure action and make a concerted effort in cleaning the air to protect the humans from contracted diseases from contaminated air. Note that consistency is important, and if we achieve all of this, we can also achieve a cleaner and healthier version of ourselves and, of course, the atmosphere.
There might still be some other land or body of water if one place has land and water pollution. But where do we go when the air we breathe is much dirtier than anything on Earth? How much more should we toxify our environment? How much more should we compromise our future? And when all things fail, where do we go? Where do we run? Where do we breathe? Our anthropogenic footsteps that we leave behind, the constant mining, burning, and release of toxic chemicals are slowly digging us our own graves. Fortunately, there's always a but. We can still make a change. We also collectively pull our efforts to clean it once again. The air you're breathing right now is limited, and it doesn't have to be this way. Slowly, you, me, practically anybody can do something to make that change. Let us not wait for the time when we can no longer fight back nor fly away. Let us not wait for the time that we are struggling to have a grasp of fresh air.